Welcome back everybody. It feels like an eternity since I've been stood at this side of the camera. Let's get it done. So, where have I been? Well, I started off cutting out the coping stones. These are all cut individually by me. They're from 1.5mm balsa wood. And then I've got some 2x2s as well in there. Sorry about any reflections. Now, for those two, that was roughly 6 hours work. I jumped in way too deep. So let me just say this now. The platform surface has all been laser cut from Steve over at Railway Laser Lines. He's completely saved the day. So what have we got? We have got some platform coping stones. Now each packet I go through it gets worse and worse. We have got 190 3x2 paving slabs. We have got roughly 200 2x2 paving slabs. And now the worst one of all, we have got 400 4x2 paving slabs. And yes, each one of these needs to be placed individually. Hopefully you'll remember me saying when I was talking about the coping stones in a previous video that I'm going to have to pull it back a bit. I can't have the realistic overhang that you would see in the real world. It's just not doable, I'm afraid, because it's so tight for me. So the overhang is minimal, as you can see. If I just bring this piece in, just roughly, something like that. And as I pull the coach along, if you just watch this corner here, you will see just how close it gets. So I think that there is sort of, that's my limit there, is what I can get to. In other words, you have to pull back on the realism, the accuracy. That'll help you with the practicality. So let me get these first two down, and that'll give us our base starting point. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the ruler here, and we're just going to use some good old rocket card glue to get it down with. As for the curved area, so those three are stuck down now. For the curved area it's going to be a little bit tricky, because if I line these up and just start the curve just gently, something like that. Well, first off, we can see here the overhang is much more than it is further up. But if I just bring the coach round, and if you watch this point here, it is extremely close, and I think it's too close for me to carry on. So I think the best thing to do with this is to cut one of these strips down, just so we cut them down into smaller sections, and we can sort of approach the curve not as aggressively, and we can gradually bring the curve round with smaller sections. Let me get this cut. I think I'll cut it into twos. As you can see, I've cut them down into twos, and I think that's worked perfectly. It is close still, and don't forget, some of these are going to be damaged, but what I want to do is I want to put them all down first, get the surface done. Basically, damage the coping stones will be almost the very last step that I do. This piece of track's not actually laid, so I've just cut it down, and we are going to get it laid now, and then we can obviously get the correct measurements for the coping stones. Copydex as usual. If I do need to lift it for whatever reason, Copydex makes that very easy. So rubberized glue, I'm sure you've all heard of it before. You've seen me use it plenty of times. So let's get this into its final resting place. Straight as possible ideally. We are just going to make sure for tolerances with the coping stones, of course. Because this is unpowered, this side, we can actually have the more realistic overhang. Get this on the track and let it run down. And would you look at that? Thumbs up. Steve was very kind enough to include the drawing that he'd used to work out how many I would need, etc. So that's coming in very handy because we have made a start laying some slabs down. Now I've laid this bit first and I had it pressed up against, on the layout, up against the side, so that gave me the straight edge that I needed. So as long as I carry on now making sure that they are snug to the line above, we should end with a very nice neat straight line. So I'm going to do a little time lapse of me laying some slabs. Whilst I've got quite a long job ahead of me, I'll tell you what did feel strange. For 4 weeks of no recording, I was twiddling my thumbs trying to figure out what I can do and the answer really was nothing. It was just a waiting game. Whilst I had the spare time on my hands, I took a dive into the garden and I've actually decided to do some plants this year, some veg. I've got all sorts growing, everything from sweet corn, peppers, tomatoes, pumpkins, you name it, I've got it. I'm not worried about the sort of glue spills and gloss finishes because I will give it, once it's all done obviously, I will give it a quick blast over with some fine sandpaper, ready to take some paint. For today, or for this evening I should say, that is the last one I'm placing. One concern that I did have was that I wouldn't be able to get it flat, and you know, each tile would be slightly different and it create a notch. It's actually relatively flat and I'm more than happy with that. I'm just going to try pick that out and fix that error there, and then I'm going for a coffee. Well, what do you think to that then? It's about 98% done. Let me just zoom you in a little bit. It zooms in very slow whilst recording. As you can see, it is most of the surface is done. There's just the odd gaps to fill, which I knew that would happen. Steve did mention this to me when he was working out the measurements and stuff, that there would be gaps to fill. Let's get on, let's fill them gaps, and then it's time to apply some primer and paint. I've just got some 180 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to give it a quick blast over the whole surface, ready to take on some primer. It's that time, we're all masked up. That is just the Tamiya masking tape. It's sort of low tack and it won't peel any paint off or damage anything or all like that, but it does a really good job. It's easy to get the straight lines and get it all tucked in neat. But what I'll put over that is just, if I just grab it, I'll just put some ordinary masking tape over it as well, just to cover the rest of it. So let's get that done. So just as I said, the Tamiya stuff is there, and we'll put an extra layer of just normal generic masking tape, like decorator stuff, over it as well. We're all masked up, ready to go. I did actually mask the back off as well. I know there's no stonework around anything on there, but this paint is probably going to melt anything foam wise that it comes into contact with. So let's get this painted. I'm a bit nervous, but let's get it over and done with. This is what I'm using, just Paint Factory quick drying primer in a matte finish, and it's grey, same colour as the lid. I'm giving it a shake for about 60 seconds, so we don't want it too thick where it pulls up like it is doing a little bit there and a bit there. Just leave that to dry and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Whilst I was waiting in between videos doing the platform, I started a bit of a miniature garden. We've got corn, onions, strawberries, sweet corn, tomatoes, cucumbers, peas in a pod, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, back to painting. Coat number 2. Leave to dry. Final coat, because it is starting to get a little bit thick in areas, and I will blast over all this very quickly with some fine sandpaper, but there is a few bits there where the MDF has just soaked up the paint, and a little bit down this side. So one more blast and we're done. One thing I will say is, number one is always wear a mask. The only reason I'm not doing this is because I'm making a video. And secondly, I'm spraying a bit close, but that's just so I can counteract the wind. If I was up here, it'd just blow everywhere. I'll just quickly show you it now that we're indoors with the indoor lighting and the overhead lighting. It is still wet. I've literally just come upstairs now. But as you can see, so far, mission successful. Right everybody, I've got to be honest, I think using the rattle can was a mistake. It has put the paint on too thick, and it has covered up some of the details, like the joins between each paving stone. Not all of them, but some of them, and it is sort of catching my eye. I've been over it with some sandpaper to eliminate as much as I can, but I think the only way forward for me now, and for me to get the best finish I can and the best looking platform I can, is to do the rest of the painting with an airbrush. Now I say the rattle can put it on too thick, it didn't. I was doing the rattle can, I was too close, and I did 4 coats. 4 coats was way too many. I should have just stuck with 2. Mistakes were made, and we're going to learn from them mistakes, but we're now going to hopefully fix them mistakes. I'm a bit disappointed really, because I feel like I've put all this work in and it's just, the last step has just gone wrong. So what I've done now is, that bit there is the stone grey straight out the bottom. This section here is the stone grey but watered down. I don't really know what to set here, so I'm just going to keep going, and hopefully it looks half decent. I've decided to do this section as a voiceover simply because it's going to allow me to explain
sort of what went wrong better. So first things first, what you're watching now is me applying a dark wash, a heavily watered down dark wash, and this has salvaged the platform and made the platform look spot on. Admittedly, the camera angle you're looking at now, it doesn't look great, but I assure you, at the end of this video, the clips you'll see, you will hopefully agree that I have managed to fix all of the mistakes, and there was plenty of them. What went wrong? Well, it all started going wrong quite clearly when I applied primer. I applied it way too thick, I put too many coats on, and it just did not help the situation at all. I tried to fix this with the airbrush. Now, an airbrush applies paint thinly. Unfortunately, this made things worse, and the airbrush clips didn't even make the video because it was just me arguing with myself. So, after that, I applied a light wash, which you will see a clip of, and it worked well, but you can see I did it in sections, so it left a distinctive line straight down the middle, which obviously caught the eye way too much. So, onto what you've been watching, the dark wash. It saved the day, and thankfully it is salvaged and we are ready to start building designs. I just want to quickly say, if you're building a station that is not derelict like mine or abandoned and forgotten about, please head over to Proper Chuffed. Hilton has done a fantastic video recently on building his station with his buildings and stuff and lighting the buildings. It's a brilliant video, it's worth a watch. Anyway, I think it's time to go back to me live in the video.
Oh, I'm definitely feeling better. I think I've managed to salvage it, rescue it. I think it's looking half decent now. There is obviously clear brush marks that you can see. Unfortunately, I mean, I could try going over with a sponge, but I'm happy where it is. I do not want to risk messing it up again. As you can see, I've painted the coping stones. The coping stones, I have only had one coat. They do need another coat, but they need to dry first. Let me just change the camera angle and we'll look from the other end. As I mentioned in the previous clip, there is obvious brush strokes, but I do not dare mess with it anymore. I'm happy with it, and don't forget, most of this section here is actually going to be covered with a building, so we're all good. I can relax now. I'm going to give these coping stones one more coat. I'm going to peel off the masking tape, and then for the platform surface we are done.